Well, hello. It's Wednesday, late night, midnight, actually. We're on the air, full screen and in live color. Yeah, there we go. You got some, exchange out some new lights. The other ones were flickering so bad, they were giving me a headache. Yeah, well, maybe not that bad. But yeah. Whoops. May I be on the, I'd like to be on the right side in the middle. There we go. On the right side. Yeah. Oh, we lost Facebook. Continue without Facebook. I put up a post on Facebook. Go to YouTube. I don't know if anyone saw it, but yeah, it looked like this kind of a message. In case you're on, yeah, that's a pretty good message. I should, let's enhance this one. Doing a little on the job. Yeah, let's make sure that's qualified. There's contrast. Tends louse up color. Shadows, I don't have any shadows really going here. And of course we have. All right, there we go. Today at 12:28 a.m. I posted that. I don't know. Please use FAU4U at youtube.com/FAU4U. And then here you are. Everyone that's hearing this has already done this. And I sent this up to my Facebook people because I just can't seem to get a consistent Facebook. Oops. Oh. Oops. I just have to tell Alexa to turn on the dim lights. There's just something going on. There we go. At 1 a.m., lights out. I've got all this stuff on super duper backup power and all that kind of stuff. So I don't lose any connectivity. But, it's so dark in here. Let's do a little speed test to see what's going on with internet speed. You should do that. Ookla. OOKLA speed test. There you go. 530. Is there 540? 520? 520? 525? Ooh, upload speed is a little shaky. It's at 47 megabits per second. 48. Do I hear 48? 47. 48. There it's 48.3. It's like an auction. Yeah, there's it. There it is. 48.3 upload speed. You can see that. I can't, your speed is 524. It's better than AT&T Fiber, better than Xfinity. Of course, this is Xfinity. And better than Fusion Hotwire in Miami. No, I know. Well, marvelous. But I'm paying for 2,000 megabits per second up. I'm paying, which 525 is a bit shy of 2,000. It's half of 1,000. Gosh, the upload speed is 48.3. I'm paying for 200, getting 48. I think I'll do a print screen. Save this for my next conversation with tech support. Yeah. What would the price be if I'm paying for these speeds? Yeah. Yeah, they get real dumb. They really don't have much of an answer. 0 packet losses. There you go. Idles. The ping is 27 megabits, 27 milliseconds. Excuse me. And the download. Where's my? Oh, this is the number of megabytes for upload and the number of megabytes for the test. And whoops, excuse me. I'll do a little backspace there. There we go. So this up here, I'm paying 2,000. Yeah. Oh well. Be there or be square. This is nothing new for me. That's the way it is. Okay, what happened at 11 p.m. tonight? Yes. Mega Millions is drawn. These are the numbers for Mega Millions. This is the actual lottery website. Winning numbers. March 17th, there was a winner. Do we know where that winner was? Not too sure what that is. You're on live TV. You don't want to take too many chances. You're live, whatever this is. Podcast. Excuse me. Oh yeah, let's get to the photos. Anyway, there was a single winner, which is unbelievable. It was the last time it took 28 drawings. It took almost 3 months, or more than 3 months, to get a winner. Here, 2 weeks. Went from 50 million to 60 million, and bam, we got a winner. Here's the result. That's try that again. There we go. I have to grab the bottom corner there and shrink it up so you see everything I see. Remember I told you there's more pixels in my iPad than the pixels we have allocated over here. So I just So as we can see, then what we do is we just look at the top. All this stuff is rollover in the future and all that stuff, which I'm just playing with. Now, notice I reset the week number. See, when on week 2, bam, there's a winner. We know that because on the on this picture, you see next Friday, March 20, 50 million. That means there was at least one winner. Could be more than one. So the $60 million, 60 million is a lot. That's a staggering amount of money. Anyway, so I have that now. I'm having difficulties here. There we go. So we just see the top line there. Tuesday, March 17th, wherein there's a winner, at least one. If there was just one, these are the winning numbers. And if he elects, he or she, or it, I think a limited partnership qualifies as a winner. He, she, or it wins and elects to do the lump sum. The lump sum, see next to the green dot, 27.1 million. That ain't chump change either. Now this is, notice on the top here, lump sum, after tax, dollar values are estimates produced by the author, not by the lottery. The author is me. Me, myself, or I. I think it's me. All data presented have not been confirmed or nor endorsed by the lottery. This is strictly Jimmy the Mathlete. I played left tangent, and based on former jackpot, estimates by the lottery, it's about, see that little 45? It's about 45.246%, something like that. So therefore, if it's 60 million, then the jackpot is 27.1. That's within the nearest 100,000. That's the number of decimal places that I'm comfortable with. The lottery has their own way of doing things. You hear a little scrunching in the background. I have a 5-pound dog, with a puppy dog running around here. God knows where he is, she is, but it is scratching at something. $27.1 million, okay? Jackpot lump sum, according to the author. Oh, here she is. She's returned. I get nervous. You got free reign of this 1,500 square foot apartment. All right, here we go. The thing is like 10 weeks old, and that is apparently a nocturnal little beast. All right, so you may be standing there with the $27.1 million check. Hold on a minute. There is such thing as a IRS withholding tax of 24%. So, Mr. Jones, what is your bank account number? And Mr. Jones, what is the routing and transfer number of your bank? Because we're only going to put in there $20,596,000. That's after the 24% withholding. The difference between 27.1 and, because that's what goes on your IRS form at TurboTax. Put on 27.1 million or whatever it actually is. They have dollars and cents and all that kind of stuff. I'm rounding to the nearest 100,000 because I don't know how they come up with that number. I'm not sure they know how to, but it's a moving target. With interest rates and what the heck is going on here? Oh my lord! Yes, it's a little noisy in the background here. Okay. She's bringing in random pieces of paper into her little box. She loves her little box. Amazon.com box. Got a delivery this evening of some vital emergencies. Same day delivery. Crazy good. I love it. The jackpot lump sum payout after federal withholding taxes. So you actually, this is what they're going to put in your checkbook, 20 million. That's not exactly chump change. That's after your withholding. However, hold on 1 minute. You're going to be in the 37% tax bracket, don't you think? How many people do you think made 27.1 million in the year 2026? There are not many of you. Elon Musk, a few billionaires, a few millionaires, a couple of lottery winners. There you go. So the difference between 20,596,000 and 17,073 is, another 2.5 million. So do yourself a favor. Put 3 million in the side pocket at 4% interest at your local Truist Bank. I got an offer to open such an account. I don't know if they'll take 20 million. Put 3 million in there at 4%. That's, 120,000 a year. Just for pocket change.
It's 1:15.
The interest on the 3 million while you wait for April 15th comes around and you got to make that 2.5 something million dollar contribution. Because you got a withholding of 24%, but you're going to pay 37%. So that means there's 13% to go. Well, that 13% adds up to like $2.5 million bucks. Maybe 2.8 million something. So put it in the side pocket so you don't you do know what the IRS chasing you for 2 or 3 million bucks. The penalties and the interest rate are breathtaking when it's millions of dollars. So, oh yes, Uncle Sam, here's my check. Has to be postmarked no later than April 15th. What's that? It shows up on a Sunday, and then you get to April 16th. Now, if you decided to take the annuity option, they're going to give you $903,000 day one. And then 1 year later, you get $948,000 more. That's 1 year after day one. A year plus day one. That's your second payment. Notice on top it says the annuity grows at 5% per year. So you take 105% of 948 and you get an even bigger number. You do 105% of 903, you end up with 948. Yes, you do. I've done the math. The spreadsheet has done the math. Notice I have a no-go. These are, it's going to start over again. So on March 20, I'm going to, actually tomorrow, I'm going to take off that no-go thing and move the green dot down so that, so there's a green dot down there next to 22,000,006. because the jackpot has reset itself to 50 million. In order for the buying audience to be interested in Mega Millions, it used to reset to like 20 million. And everyone said, you know what? Forget it. We'll do Powerball and we'll do, there's competition for lottery money. The lottery business it's a business. Yeah. I think it's I don't know. It is a business. They have a P&L, or they have, where you have profits and losses and all that. They're not allowed to have losses. Who knew? They have bonding and all this kind of stuff because that lottery winner, he's going to be after your ass if you don't have the 30th payment to get him up to 60 million. Oh yeah. Yeah. The payments grow like crazy. Want me to show you? I hasten to go to the actual, this is the actual spreadsheet. Yeah, oh God. So we're gonna touch that button right there, and we're gonna copy it. We're gonna arrow down to this, and we're gonna paste it. There we go. Because this is real. Now notice I don't have rollover in that empty box. Because there's going to be a drawing. Yeah. I should have roll them on there. Yeah, because... Yep. Let's do that. Copy. Go up on there. Paste. And I'm going to go in there and edit this little rascal. Roll them. Let's put a little exclamation point on top of that. Yeah. Cute. Yeah, let's roll them. Because let's get rid of the star. There we go. Because we're starting anew. Now, if no one wins the 50, then it's going to roll over to 60. And if no one wins 60, roll over to probably 70. This will correct this. $80. $90. And then whatever happens here, who knows? But that's what happens. 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. What happens after that is based on, all of this is based on projected lottery winnings. But they have a surplus, because they do make a little money on this. And they have to have a little margin. It's like almost like an insurance business. Yeah. Ooh, they got to have a little cushion. So this $60 million bingo right there. Oh gosh. I have to get this just right. That's close enough. Now we're going to do another print screen. And I'm going to get this right up to here. Yeah, it's going to be a skinny one. Long and skinny. And we're not going to show any annuity. We're just into what's going on here. There we go. See the photos. We're going to get out of the lottery thing before I louse it up. Touchscreen is can get very nerve-wracking. There we go. So now, see this? You see, this is the photo. I did a print screen, so this is a PGN file. And this 17, see, next week, reset to 50 million. I got that officially from the official website of the lottery. It takes until about an hour or so after the lottery before they come out with such a thing. I didn't start till, just slightly after midnight. I like to say my little dog is comfortably curled up in his box, but he is not. Where's that little dog? Well, it gets quiet around here. I get nervous. He's got the full range. I got things blocked off pretty much, but the dog has been nicely peeing and pooping on a little piece of special absorbent paper that absorbs odors and such things. Because we're potty training this little beast, and the first phase of potty training is in your place. If you have a ranch, and you open up the barn door and let them roll. But, we're up here 8 floors above Chops. Yep. About 100 feet above Chops. So the backyard, we only have a front yard off a 20-foot wide balcony. And if you take a leap over the barrier, you go splat in about 3 seconds on the street below. So we don't have any green backyards that open. As a matter of fact, Daniel and I, actually Daniel, bought 2 rolls of 16-inch chicken wire. It's like it's got a green paint on it, green chicken wire. And they're 2 12-foot rolls. Swear to God. And the first roll went right to the halfway mark because, it goes across the 10 feet of balcony, and then it has to go 2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet over to the concrete wall. Yeah. So right at the middle, it started the next roll. And we go, oh my God, are we going to be 3 feet short or what? So then we rolled it all the way around, the rest of the way. It was like perfect to the inch. And we anchored it using zip ties. Yeah. It was very clean. It took, maybe 20 minutes. Got it nice and tight. Showed them how to tighten it up. Yep. And it's nice and, it's firmly installed on our balcony in such a way as that when you remove it, there will not be a sign. There will not be a hint of such thing. But the chicken wire is there because there's between the vertical rods on the balcony thing that holds up the railing on the top, 4 feet above or whatever, how many feet it has to be, minimum 4.5 feet. 42 inches, 48 inches. We'll have to measure it. I don't know what there is a legal minimum so you don't lean against it and just flip over. They take the average height of a person and they add 6 inches. And you taller people, watch out. Be careful on leaning over the balcony. Yeah, Marilyn was worried about the cats getting through there, falling off. I says, Marilyn, cats are smart. They don't jump. People jump. Cats don't jump. Only people jump. That cat can look down and says, that's too much for me. I think I'll just stay up here, Cafe 812, and have Jimmy and Marilyn keep feeding me and cleaning me up. And not all the time. Anyway, so we were, whoopsie. There you go. So there is we have a grand prize winner last night, or early, 11 p.m. on March 17, with the numbers 4, 11, 18, 38, 50. Whoops. Come here, you little booger. All right, there you go. Bang your head. There. Let me see if I put this on full screen mode so the audience can see our new edition. Oh my God. She's so squirmy. All right. Let's see. There we go. Full screen. There you see this little puppy duppy. Is that the prettiest looking guy you've ever seen? Girl you've ever seen? Look at those ears. That is so fantastic looking. Look at that. Live and in color. It's not very bright in here. Let's turn up the lights. There we go. Studio lights. Turn them up. Put them on bright. Let's give me one of these things and cover the keyboard. So this dog doesn't... Oh my God.
It's 1:30.
There we go. She's a wiggly squiggly. Oh yeah. Yeah, where did you go? You disappeared for... Yeah. I got a touch screen iPad here, so yeah. She doesn't mind being held. Matter of fact, she's, according to Funkin' Wagnalls, this dog has been bred. It is just to get the legalese out of the way here, this dog is a pedigree. My vet says you got a good one. He checked the heart is good. Checked all the organs internally with fingers, no surgery, and externally, 4 legs, ankles, knees, tuna fish. Oh yeah, this is such a sweet dog, yeah. We have 2 cats, and we've already integrated Jimmy the zookeeper, as the tricky part was training the cats. Now, I haven't been able to control this little puppy because little puppies are full of energy, and the little tail wags like crazy. The tail wags so much that the back legs have a hard time keeping themselves grounded on the ground on this tile floor. The 2 legs are shaking like that. Well, the single tail is wagging at like 80 cycles a second. Yeah, it's a super wagger. Maybe let's say 15 cycles a second per second. No, 5 cycles a second. It's wagging. It's not 1 per second. It's, let's say, 5 cycles per second. If I had to, my life was dependent on a guess. I don't know. It's wagging though. You see it's got the little dot on the forehead? The story goes, this is called the Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. So you can look it up in your own Funkin' Wagnalls. Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. So it's some kind of a spaniel. And King Charles and his animal people, kings have people, and they bred a spaniel to be a King Charles Spaniel, a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, designed it to be a lapdog. And the special ones have that little dot on the head. See that little patch of white hair? And that's supposedly King Charles's thumbprint. All right, so what does all that mean? What it means, these little guys that are born, at 8 weeks old, they're 3.5 pounds. 10 weeks old, they're about 4 pounds, 5 pounds, And full adult weight, somewhere between 14 and 16 pounds, which is the size right now of the two cats we have. We got a 13-pounder and a 16-pounder. So we can tell, with a cat, what a 16-pound, four-legged beast, just how much length and height is that? And this doggy would be proportioned similar to, the body length and the length of the legs and so forth. So they'll be similarly sized, in about 8 months. But right now, this one is about half the height and half the length. So, yeah, it's 5 pounds instead of 20 pounds. So it's about 25% of the cat. But you'd never know it because this little guy's chasing the cat all over the place. But of course, the cat has learned, jump up. Just hop up on something about 18 inches tall. Any kind of box, any kind of, jump on the couch, get on the cocktail table, dining room table, just leap up there, and then you can look down upon said dog, wagging tail, and you're safe from having your butt snipped by some little puppy dog. Yeah, look at the eyes are closed. Just about closed. Is such a sleepy cat. Yeah, you'll just hang here. Excuse me. Yeah. So at 1:35 p.m. on a late night show, we have introduced the name of the dog. I know you're all hanging on bated breath. What do you call this beast? Honey. It is the color of honey. Kind of a medium brown. It's all brown. Has a little bit of white underneath the chest area. And a white spot on the forehead, which is the King Charles's thumbprint. All right, so what do they do with these? Well, number one, all the ladies in the powder room, they love to have these little doggies, including King Charles. This is true. We're going back, 800, 1,000 years, 900 years ago, something like that. In England, this is an English dog. Oh, King Charles, how are you? I should have had my British accent. Cheerio. Anyway, King Charles had these dogs specially bred for battles. Their armies would go out and conquer adjacent property owners among the first sought, so they could expand their pastures and all that kind of stuff. Because they want to grow their empire, so their castle can have more, guards and armies and horses, all the stuff that you have to contend with when you're in ancient England, ancient Britain, and you want to protect the castle. So they bred these dogs, and they'd have 4 or 5 of them that would go off to battle with the horses and the armies and the swords and the spears and the food they have to take with them on their ride to the adjacent property owner's property, and then pound on the door of the adjacent property owner. Say, "This is the army of King Charles. Surrender or be conquered." And, this adjacent property owner may have guards, may not. If he doesn't, then King Charles takes over that adjacent property owner and the smaller castle that's sitting on that property, which becomes the vice president's residence. Whatever, the highest guy is next to the king. In case the king gets toppled and there is no queen, it goes down to the princes. In this case, Prince Charles is going to be King Charles. We got another King Charles coming up because the current king of England has been sick with cancer for a year and a half, and apparently his days, everyone's preparing for his abduction of the throne to his eldest son, which is the Prince of England, and would become the king. The younger son, Prince Harry, he's 5th. I think I read somewhere where he's 5th in line to the throne. So if the son moves up to king, then he becomes 4th in line to the throne, I would assume, because the Prince Charles has a couple of kids, and at least one of them are in line for the throne before Harry. The males, it's based on marriages and children and all that stuff. Yeah, whoa. Sorry. I'm spraying my Brittany onto the ears of my Cavalier King Charles pup, who wants to be unbothered by my speech. Anyway, let's go back to adding. Whoops. Why is it you guys keep putting me on the left of middle? You know I'm on the right of middle. There we go. Yeah. As you remember, I've tricked the system into thinking this iPad is a camera. I have a real camera there. I'm pointing at it. And I have an iPad over here that decided to go to sleep. And it's supposed to be giving me a Flipboard. Yeah. It does a slideshow Flipboard. This is what I read every morning. What's this? It used to load up with stuff. Pentagon is planning. Whoops. There we go. Let's slide that over. It's on one of these upright stanchions. So is my MacBook Pro right here. This magnificent piece of equipment made by Apple. Whoops. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. The P words and the T words go right into the ears of said dog, and she's trying to sleep. Well, you can go back to your box. I'm going to try to put her in a box. Hold on. How did she get that? No, it's right down there. There we go. Touch that box. Yeah, tuck yourself in. Putting the dog down and strangling her on my headphone wire here. She ended up with this roll of tape. It's my blue tape that demarked. We have a look at that. Well, you can't see. The dog is all folded up, wrapped up in a Amazon box. This stuff came in today. It's the perfect size. The box has to keep expanding. Anyway, this blue tape. We have a 6 foot by 4 foot hard pine from southern South America. It's a very hard pine area where the pine wood is very dense than the typical real soft pine. So Thomas and Sandra had a little factory on Paroline Road, on the east side of Paroline Road. We bought all kinds of furniture handmade with these guys. Came up from Mexico, and they brought up this magnificent raw hard pine, which, you know, the furniture has this Aztec look, the way it's been, you know, chiseled out. It's amazing. It's gorgeous. And, you know, Marilyn is a Native American, so this kind of Aztec, you know, see, only kind of furnishing that has this Indian flavor. It's magnificent. We bought it like 20 years ago. And anyway, so in the den, we moved into this apartment 812. We moved from 801 to 812. Can you believe it? On the same floor. When we moved into the place for the first time 14 years ago, we heard about people moving around and getting the right apartment. I said, you kidding me? You move. The last thing I want to do is think about moving again. Well, we did it because this had a nice 20-foot balcony overlooking the Boca Raton Club. And, you know, anyway, so we have the 6 foot by 4 foot table. It's in the den. And I said, okay. So I took this blue tape and I stretched it across 6 feet. And I said, this 24 inches will be mine, and that 24 inches will be yours. And this is the line of demarcation. And I use this blue tape to indicate if there was any people violating. Oh, God. So I got my 24 inches by 60 inch studio arrangement, and I got my soundboard here thing, this Rodecaster Pro, and I've got the MacBook Pro Air 15-inch screen diagonal, and there's no fans, no blowers, all solid state design. The chips are like mushed up against this machined solid aluminum shell with silicone grease. And this top up here, which I'm rubbing, gets up to about 93 degrees. The room temperature here is 70.7. So down here it would be 70 degrees. As you come up to here, it goes from 70 up to about 90 as you come across. And I can feel right where the chips are. They're right in here. Right behind the number 1 through number 9, 8. Yeah, right in the zone. I would say it's right here. Between 3 and 4. This is where the processor is that does everything. The reason why you can hear me. Because it's a software package designed and operated by Ecamm Live. In case any of you want to become podcasters, you have to have a Mac. And you load onto it, Ecamm Live, ECAMM.com. You can go there and see the software. And it costs you $20 a month. You use their software. You don't have to buy it, just pay a fee. If you want to podcast with the professional version of this, it costs you about $39 a month, $40 a month. I have that software because I'm supposed to be simulcasting over YouTube Live. That's working. God, that was the other night I was on the air for 4 hours and 30 minutes. Can you imagine listening to me for 4 hours and 30 minutes? Talking to myself. Unbelievable. It's amazing what you can do when you like yourself. There we go. We're doing a little live editing here of this. Turn up the contrast. Oops, not all the way because we lose the lines around that. I couldn't do anything with it. And say whoops. There we go. We can just get that real deep blue. That's my results here on my speed test, which are pretty terrible. Let's try it again. You can see it right here in live color. See, you are connected to the internet. Yes, we know that. Thank God my guests are hearing me through the internet. I wonder if anyone has contacted Elon Musk about, Iran and the people of Iran needing a way to communicate. All right, the internet has recovered from this slump because I'm back up to 543 megabytes download, which, I don't care about. I needed to be at least 60 megabytes down. But the upload speeds, see right there, upload, that's what's important to us. Because, let me do a print screen of that. Whoops. I missed the tag. There we go. We don't need go. Then we just bring this over here. Speed test by Ookla. Okay, LA. You should download this speed test. The author is Ookla. 2 O's. Ookla, I believe. There it is. We are going to save this in my photo album. And I'm going to go over here to... no, I don't want that. Go back to speed. Come over here. Let's go to... No. We want... about, maybe? About speed test. See, speed test by Ookla. Ookla. You can see it there if you look carefully. Is the definitive way to measure your internet performance. With billions of tests to date, Speedtest is the dominant global leader in internet performance testing and metrics. Yeah. Anytime the Xfinity guy comes over, which is rarely, maybe 3 times in 25 years, I don't like them coming into the place. I said, give me the material in boxes and I'm a network guy, I'll connect it myself. You just make sure that the signal is getting into my dwelling unit. Anyway, let's do a print screen of this right here. So, yeah, we'll go right here and we can see Ookla. Yeah, about Speedtest. There we go. That's exactly what I wanted. Save the photos. Yep. But, so the Xfinity guy gives me some mumbo jumbo about what the speed is. I run speed tests right there through the modem. And it's their modem and it's their connection. I'm the guy with the device. My iPad here. It's my iPad Pro. It's the latest version with let's even show you that. Hit my About page. And as you can see, it has, model name, iPad Pro 13-inch, in brackets, M5 chip. Now that is something that the Apple software draws the model name from the model number. That's not me. I can't type that in. Nor can I do anything with the iPad OS version. iPad OS 26.4. The iOS beta gives you early preview. Yeah, I'm an Apple beta tester. Of course. That's what you would expect. Now see here, model name. Now that's I can make that model name. I can call it, Elon Musk would call it X. He's got at least one kid named X. He bought Twitter and renamed it X, which was stupid. Because Twitter has, it's going to be Twitter, because I've been using it since it was a long time Twitter. Anyway, so I named this Jim W's 13-inch. As you can see, I've got a little Apple there. And iPad Pro. And then I put 2025 M5. And I put the actual Apple model number, which is MXHL6C1Y79. That's the model number, okay? Or that's the serial number. The model number is MEJ4LL\A for North America, I guess. Anyway. So I have that in there because if there's a backup, this backs up, once or twice a day up into the cloud. So that way, because I have, MacBook, I got this iPad, I got that iPad, and an iPhone. So I got 4 iPads and an iPhone and a MacBook Pro all sitting here backing up to the cloud. I have another 13-inch MacBook Pro in the living room, dining room, whatever that room is called. Yeah. This one stays in here in my little, I hate to use the word studio because there's only room for me, myself, and I. And my little tiny doggy, and I rolled up in a, gosh, in a Amazon.com box. I'll have to take a picture of that before I leave the studio tonight. Now it says, well, how'd you do with the pup last night? Well, I was curled up in a box at 2 a.m. Wednesday morning. Whew. I had lunch with Bill tomorrow, or today, later today. And Bill canceled. He had a conflict that popped up. So I decided to do a late night broadcast here, reciting the numbers from last night's winner. Would you believe? Won $60 million. Somebody did. At least one. Could be more than one, but it's a 290 million to 1 shot that you don't win. Now, this person won Boca Raton, Florida. I'm going to be really pissed because I did not buy a Mega Millions ticket before 10 p.m. On Tuesday. So I have a winning ticket at my in my secret envelope here. It's locked up behind this Scotch tape in my official envelope. And I've got my winning ticket. There's some winning on the last one. Money in there, not much. And I have $3 in cash.
What's that?
And running out of cash in the winning department. These lotteries are not investments. Yeah, no. There you go. There's the ticket. The lump sum. Excuse me while I cough and sneeze. Gosh, just dropped the pen. Razor blade thing next to the dog. There we go. Chews on everything. So you don't want them to chew on a razor blade. It would create a dental problem. Oh boy. Anyway, someone won because they reset the lottery to 50 million on Friday's drawing. I mean, 50 million and chump change. But you see there's a 2 there? That means it only got to week 2 and someone won. The last time there was a winner, it took 28 weeks. Not 28 weeks. 28 drawings, 2 per week. Tuesday, Friday, Tuesday, Friday, Tuesday, Friday, Tuesday, Friday. So this is Tuesday, or it was yesterday at 11 p.m. And now the next drawing is Friday. And see, there's a 1 there, which means it's going to be the first week on March 20. Guess what that is? That's my birthday. So wouldn't that be nice if I get lucky on my birthday and win Mega Millions? Well, there's 290 million reasons why that'll not happen. Yeah, it's a slim pickings on winning that one. You got 45 states, people buying tickets, two areas, D.C. and the Virgin Islands, 45 states, D.C., Washington, D.C., District of Columbia, and the Virgin Islands. It's not 50 states, 45 states. And I have a list of the 5 states that do not participate in these lotteries, like Powerball, Mega Millions, and all that. I for the fun of it, so here I stripped in. So what do? I go to the lottery. The Florida website has an app, which I downloaded, and I bring it up here on my iPad. And I do a print screen of that. And you can see 4, 11, 18, 38, 50, 24. Yep. The numbers below are the week before, which no one won. It rolled over to this one, and at least someone won the $60 million drawing under Mega Millions. See, there's the 4, 11, 18, 38, 50. 4, 11, 38, 50. That's that right there. And I just cropped it real tight just to show that. And then I go into my spreadsheet, and in this column where it says winning numbers, I just copy and paste that right in there. So you have like little balls, you have the numbers, you got the yellow mega ball. It goes 1 through 24. That's the highest number. There is no. It used to be a 25, and they dropped that down to 24, and then they increased these 5 to 70 balls. So you got 70 balls in a machine. You pick out 5, so it's 70, 69, 68, 67. So 70 through 65. So you couldn't have a number repeated, because once the number is here, then it's not in the bouncing balls in the machine. So, and they don't necessarily come out in this order. It could have been 4, 38, 11, 50, 18. It doesn't matter which order. It just matters what the number is. So the lottery people arrange them in numerical order. I showed you how I copy the strip right there. I copy and paste it right into the spreadsheet. Now this is a print screen of the spreadsheet, so I can touch on it and nothing will louse up all this formula. There's a lot of numbers here, and it's all based on knowing how to do Excel. In the world of Apple, it's numbers. In the world of the Hewlett Packard and the Dell computers, the Windows-based computers, the Windows spreadsheet par excellence is Excel. Yeah, Microsoft. Bill Gates, Microsoft company. Bill Gates and company. Who never finished college and jumped off and started his own company with a few other people. Became Microsoft. They made an arrangement with IBM. Can you believe it? And then they rewrote the DOS, the DOS software, into Microsoft DOS. MS-DOS, they called it. And that was the operating system that was in every IBM computer. The IBM PC, which basically was the beginning of personal computers in everyone's home or office. I had the PC, and then a couple years later they came out with the AT, Advanced Technology PC. I'm telling you, that's it. I had it, and I was happy as a clam in the sand, and I was a spreadsheet adopter, spreadsheets for the companies that I work for, and came up with some marvelous pictorials of numbers, which is basically what this is. I mean, I did this. Big deal, but, someone has to do it. So in my spare time, see Mega Millions, produced by the author, not by lottery. The only numbers that come out of the lottery is the date, Tuesday, Friday, right? And this amount right here, the 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 million, so forth. The lottery people come up with what the jackpot will be. And on March 20th, the jackpot's going to be reset to 50 million because someone won the 60 million. Otherwise, that 50 million would have been 70 million. 10 million more than the 60 million. But someone won the 60 million. Mega Millions resets to 50 million. And then everyone buys tickets to see who wins the 50 million. And we called it, remember we were in that, and we called it Roll 'em. That's in there? Yeah. Well, I did this print screen. Did I do one of those? Whoops. Let's go back to here. My photos. There it is. Roll 'em. Yeah, because there's no rollover. This is the first drawing of Mega Millions on March 20 for for Mega Millions on March 20. It got reset because someone won on March 17. This is March 18 at 2:10 a.m. There's the winning numbers, in case you don't know, and in case you're listening to me driving on the highway somewhere and you fell into YouTube Live and you got some guy in Studio 812 up here, 8 stories above Chops in downtown Boca Raton, it's a chilly 61.2 degrees outside with 79 degree relative humidity. That's according to this device I have outside my balcony. I'm pointing to this right here. You can see my finger pointing way down here. I got all kinds of stuff here. And the temperature inside this studio is 60. I'm all bundled up with 4 shirts on because it's 69.8 degrees in here with a 48% relative humidity. Okay. Anyway, so I'm showing you spreadsheet stuff. So there's the winning numbers. Next week, or not next week, on March 20, which is what, 18, 19, 20. It's only a couple of days from now, Friday, I think. Yeah. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. 18, 19, 20. Yep. Roll them. And then they'll have new balls. And who knows, maybe Jimmy, I'm going to play, and someone's got to win this darn thing. So maybe Jimmy can win it on my birthday. I was born at 9:36 a.m. on the first day of spring. Yeah. Well, if someone wins the $50 million March 20 jackpot, the single winner, if there was a single winner, and it's likely it's a single winner because it's a $290 million to 1 shot of anyone winning, much less 2 winning. The See the column heading here, which I carefully phrased. The jackpot lump sum payout before taxes, aka NPV, the net present value, equals the present value of the future cash flows. And there are 30 payments over 29 years and 1 day. A 5% growing annuity. Yeah. So this would be 22.6 million is the lump sum estimate of a $50 million winner. Now it depends on interest rates and so forth and how they, which financial institution would bought the potential annuity. They have someone lined up, even before the drawing, because they got to come up with this $22 million. They got to come up with that number over the week, over the few days between Friday and Tuesday. Now, Tuesday is a winner, so between Tuesday and Friday coming up, they're going to do it again, with another. So this bidding for these annuities, the financial institutions bid for the annuity. It's over 29 years. There's a lump sum payment. I don't have it on this particular. I have to go to this one here. So we're just going to look at the top row. Forget all those other ones. Yeah. Just going to isolate this so you don't see. There you go. So here's the Tuesday Mega Million, March 17th, 60 million. That came from the lottery. This came from the lottery. This comes from the lottery, yeah. And if this is the winning number. If there's only one person that had that number on their ticket, then the lump sum is 27.1 million.
It's 2:15.
That is the, that's the net present value of the future cash flows. And what does that mean? Well, if it's a 5% growing annuity, what's the first payment for the 30 payments over 29 years and 1 day? It's $903,086 in my estimation to the nearest whole dollar. And I have calculated that based on a very complicated formula, which I'll show you one day, not today. You remember, this is a print screen. This is not the actual spreadsheet, because with the fingers, you tend to alter things with touchscreen. Yeah, with a MacBook, you touch the screen, that's okay, because it's not touchscreen. Touchscreen on iPads means it goes into that cell and louses up your spreadsheet. So I do a print screen, which makes a photograph of whatever's on the screen, and put it in my photo album. And then I go get that photo, and we're looking at that photo. We are not actually looking at the numbers spreadsheet. In the world Windows, it would be the Excel spreadsheet. Same basic formulas, Excel was not permitted to copyright the way in which you do formulas and things, because it was in the opinion of the judges, this was challenged in the courts. It's out there in too many places. You don't have the right to copyright wheel. Wheel. Everybody knows what a wheel is. The word is all over the place. You can't copyright the word wheel. W-H-E-E-L? No. Well, that's what they said about all the way in which formulas were done in spreadsheets. So when Numbers came up with the spreadsheet design, basically following, the procedures that are done in Excel, I had little problems. I have a few problems, but not many problems, dealing with numbers in producing. That's a fairly nice spreadsheet. This is Jimmy design. All these column headings, I've got all done out. You see the jackpot lump sum after the withholding. So even though you're holding that check next to the green dot, Uncle Sam has his arm reaching out into the lottery people, and Uncle Sam expects to get a 24% withholding on that 27 million. So that's how 27 million becomes 20,596 real fast, because the IRS has gleeped the withholding tax of 24% on all lottery winnings $600 and above. Lottery people are compelled to withhold 24%, and they send it on to the IRS when you come to cash in your ticket. You got 180 days to get your ticket, or else the amount of the money is sacrificed. Anyway, I've had some winning tickets over $600, and I went to somewhere, I forget where, Fort Lauderdale or West Palm, from Coral Springs, no, it was in Tampa. I won, and I had to go to a state lottery office somewhere in the Tampa area, and cashed in about $14,000 worth of money. Can you believe it? Anyway, that's another story for another evening. Let's carry on here. See? So the next column is the jackpot lump sum payout after the full income tax of 37%. Because remember, you had a 24% withholding. This 20,596,000, that's the actual amount of money that this chap is going to get in his checkbook. Okay? That's what you put, or his accountant puts, in TurboTax. That's going to be his 2026 earnings, plus what he's actually earning if he's working and earning anything. So he's going to add to his earnings 27 million. That certainly puts him in the maximum tax bracket. So that's why I have this column after 37%. Because anybody that's winning these kind of numbers, 50 million and above, which has a lump sum payout of 27 million, you're going to be in that maximum tax bracket. Pretty darn sure. And if you're already a billionaire, you're going to be right in there at 37% along with this chap. So anyway, he's going to get that 20 million in his checkbook. They're going to wire it right down into his TD Bank account. I'm making that up. So the 20 million becomes 17 million because the difference between 24% and 37% is 13%, right? That 13% is the additional tax you're going to have to pay because you're going to be in the maximum tax bracket of 37%. So that's that $2.5 million. So you lost this $6 million, $6 million, went into 24% of, tax of that. 24% of 27, brings you down to 20 million. Because, if the government's going to get 24, what are you going to get? You're going to get 76%. So 76% of that number is that number. The 24% goes to Uncle Sam. Well, 37% of that, whoops, where'd it go? Yeah, my finger went off the edge. Yeah, so 37% of 27 million. Well, that number represents the difference between 37% and 100%, which means 63% of that number is 17,073,073. Rounded to the nearest $1,000. These are estimates. I am not giving tax advice. This is just a display because, now if you took the annuity, then your initial payment would be $903,086. In my humble opinion, there's a very intricate formula in that to calculate that 903, because that's what the lottery official has in their they submit an RFP. Like contractors submit an RFP, a request for proposal, to build a building somewhere. So the developer sends out an RFP to all the contractors, says, and the plans and specs. These are the plans and specs. Take a look at them and give me a proposal on building this building. I want to know how much concrete, labor, electricians, air conditioning people, water, plumbing, all that stuff. Concrete laborers. Requests for proposal. Well, the banking industry, including, the financial things like lotteries, they send out an RFP to some of the biggest financial institutions in the world. And in that RFP, it says, tell me the amount of money that is the first payment of the 30 payments. Okay? And I want to know the second payment and the third payment and so on. It's going to be a 5% growing annuity. See that 5% growing annuity? This is before tax. So 105% of that number is that number. And 105% of that number would be the next one, which I didn't bother showing all of them. But so based on, and then you add them all up. Because when you add them all up, and that person elects the annuity based over 30 payments over 29 years, because he gets that first 903,000 day one. So you go to the lottery official and say, I want the annuity, and I want my $903,000 right now. 2 weeks from today, actually, is the earliest you can get the money. Because Mega Millions has to call up all the other 44 states and 2 territories. They gotta pay up. Their share based on how many lottery tickets they sold. I don't know how that works, but they gotta accumulate all that money. That was paid last drawing and this drawing to come up with the $60 million jackpot. So the question is, what would be that first payment? So that if you add that up to the other 29 payments in the future, for the future cash flows, see, it all ties together. What would that number be? So this is a calculation with a very fancy formula. Now the formula to get from the second payment from the first payment, this is a tough one to calculate, that one. Yeah, that took me a couple of weeks to figure out that one. What would that first number be? What would the formula be of that first number? So that over 29 years, 30 payments over 29 years because Johnny Jones gets 903,086. That's a calculation to the nearest dollar. Second payment is 5% bigger than that payment. And you keep going across. And by the time you end up with the 28th, 29th payment, it's like 2.7 million. You know, the compounding effect of 5% over 28, 29 years. The final payment of the 29 is about 300% of this number. So 3 times 9 is 27. That's 2.7 million. Starts up at 900,000, goes up to 27 million, or 2.7 million. And the other 27 payments in between, you know, are 5% less than the previous one and so forth. So you come back down to this number. You add them all up, you need to add up to 60 million. That number right there. And my calculations are usually within about 50 bucks. Or 60 bucks, let's say, of 60 million. That's a lot of decimal places. That's like 0.0000001. That would be a 10,000th of 1% put off. And that's just because when you're rounding to the nearest, you know, penny, we can't pay tenths of a penny. So 49 cents or below, you round down, right? 50 cents and above, you round up. So most of my calculations are, you know, within within 50 bucks one way or the other, but mostly I have like a $10, $20, $30 overpayment because when you round, 50 is bigger than 49, right? Ouch. My dog scratched me right here. You can see that. Ouch. Oh, it was like day one. Can you imagine sharp claws on a dog? On a puppy dog? Wow, that guy nipped me. 28 millisecond ping. So one of the tests that Ookla does, running the test again, is does a ping. You may remember the hunt for Red October? And Sean Connery says to the first mate, just one ping only. And you hear, boom, it vibrates in your brain. That's a ping. And it sends out a dit. And how fast does that dit go out through the backbone of the internet backbone server, and then it returns it ricochets that ping back as if it hit a mirror. So that round trip, you can see right there, that little 28 underneath the 385, you look just down a little bit to the left, and you see ping, MS, milliseconds. It took 28 milliseconds for dong, you know, for the ping of the transducer in the submarine looking for the Hunter Red October. Now, one ping only, just one ping, bam. So he had 28 millisecond round trip MS for millisecond, and the file was 136 megabytes that went down, and then the upload was 50 megabytes going up. The jitter was 15 milliseconds, so the jitter is like the wave. It's like the way it should be, like a nice flat line, but it isn't. It has, unfortunately, a wave. I think of it as like a wave. And the wave is in milliseconds. And if you'll recall, if I go back to my photo album, if I could get back to that somehow, magically. Oh, well, I'll just go here. There we go. See, here was 525 going download, you know, like when you download this file that gets all this information. This Flipboard, this is what I read every day. I picked a bunch of authors of information, you know, like Wall Street Journal, New York Times, the Palm Beach Post, the Miami Herald, the Tampa Tribune. These are the news sources. The Associated Press, you know, Scientific American, Popular Science, Popular Mechanics, Popular this, Popular that. I mean, I got Popular everything. Popular Photography, Popular Digital Photography. Yeah. All the magazines that I would read if I were to go out to the newsstand and buy magazines. I used to, every month I'd buy a stack of magazines when I was 15 years old. Yeah. Those magazines is how I learned to read, actually. I hated reading The Spot Jumps Up the Hill. Really? Dog Spot jumps up. The dog Spot walks around the street. Oh, isn't that exciting? Mommy, you know, if you don't mind, take me to the candy store. That's what we used to call a delicatessen kind of a place, where they have newspapers on the rack, and then next to the newspapers was all these magazines slotted in, you know, rows and rows of magazines. And of course, I go down to, you know, Popular Mechanics, Popular Aviation. Oh, I was very interested in airplanes. You know, Popular Jets and Popular Scientific American. That was pretty deep science stuff for a 14-year-old, 13-year-old. I read it anyway. I read everything I got my hands on. That was in my interest area. You know, reading the book Jane Eyre is sleepy time for me. Oh, God. What is this? Former? Oh, here we go. Thank God there was stuff. The former Uber self-driving chief crashes his Tesla on full self-driving, exposes the supervision problem. Oh, God. When was that published? March 17th. Yesterday at 2 p.m. Oh, I missed that one. That's a bad article. Yeah, because this is my Tesla that I drive. Yeah. Rafi Kikorian, Mozilla's chief technology officer and former head of Uber's self-driving car division, totaled his Tesla Model X while using full self-driving on a residential street. His kids were in the back seat. Oh, shit. Oops, sorry. In a new essay published by The Atlantic, Kikorian breaks down the accident and offers what might be the most informed critique yet of the fundamental problem with Tesla's approach to supervised autonomy. Crap. That's not good. Someone who literally builds self-driving systems for a living. The accident. Okay, here's a whole... Holy mackerel. Yeah. He grabbed the steering wheel but couldn't recover in time. The FSD appeared to lose its bearings. Kikorian describes the wheel jerking erratically and the car decelerating without warning. He grabbed the steering wheel but couldn't recover the car in time. The car slammed into a concrete wall and was totaled. Kikorian suffered a concussion, a stiff neck, and days of headaches. His children were unharmed. They just bounced around the backseat. But, you know, oh gosh. I'll have to print screen that one. Oh, darn. Yeah. Anyway, so I read Flipboard and articles like that. I had that on this iPad. See if I can follow it on this one. Okay. What was the top headline of that? I can hardly miss it. Tesla Model S Plaid takes on the 2026 Corvette ZR1 in the thrilling drag race rematch. And there was a clear winner. And the clear winner was... I'll tell you what, these Teslas, when you push down on the accelerator pedal, it's like a rocket ship. And it doesn't rev up, it's just instant power. Whereas you got to rev up that engine on a Corvette up to 3,000 or 4,000 RPM and then pop the clutch. That's how you get going. Oh, come on. In the Plaid, it's 1,024 horsepower of electric motor, and in the ZR1 it's 1,064 horsepower. So the Z1 had slightly more horsepower, but 1,000 horsepower of electric motor, that had to be an amazing takeoff. Clean launch. Yeah, both look evenly matched in different ways. I'm telling you, 1,000 horsepower of electric motors, all-wheel drive. That's a lot of power in those wheels. I owned a Corvette. I am a 1959 Corvette, yeah. My mother said, Bill, give Jimmy the car keys. My sophomore year of college. Bill is my mother's husband's name, my father. So his name was William Henry Wilson. My mother called him Bill. That's the nickname for William that come down through centuries. So my mother looked over to my father and said, Bill, give Jimmy the car keys. Bill looks at my mother with this piercing stare like lightning bolts is coming out of his eyeballs. And he reached in his pocket and gave me the keys to his brand new Corvette, which Jimmy got. Oh, God. Oh, no wonder he hated me. Oh, God. The Corvette charged down the quarter mile in 9.26 seconds. And just 149 miles per hour. While Brooks struggled with his Tesla's launch, and finished behind at 9.57 seconds. However, in the second run, flipped everything. This time, the Tesla launched cleanly and immediately pulled ahead in near silence and it crossed the line in 9.24 seconds, and the Corvette dropped to a slower 9.59 seconds. Yeah, once the Plaid gets it right, it's hard to beat. There are not many cars that beat it. Yeah. They did the race a third time, and the Tesla, hit the quarter mile mark in 9.26 seconds, and the ZR1 slipped back even further to 9.75 seconds. Yeah. 1,000 horsepower of electric. So it had 3 electric motors in it, totaling 1,000 horsepower. And the ZR1 had a V8 engine with 1,000. Corvette sends all 1,064 horsepower to the rear wheels. Through an 8-speed dual clutch transmission. Yeah, you imagine you go, where the electric motors, you push down on it, you don't hear shit. Some pardon the expression. Ship. I said ship. You don't hear a ship. Yeah, no. It's silent. You don't hear any motor noise in a Tesla. Anyway, we're not looking for that article. I like that article, but we're not looking for that article. We're looking for this other one where the Uber guy crashed. Yeah, that's got to be in here. So I saw it in this one. Got to be in this one. That's headline news, baby. The Atlantic Magazine. Well, I've got this one. Yeah. So I'm just going to do a print screen on this one.
45.
Now that'll end up in my photo album. So we'll go to photos. We'll go back. We'll go to, let's see, go to recently saved. And that article should pop up. Then you go to the photo album here. Where's photo album? It's right here. Recently saved. There's the article. There it is. Takes a couple of seconds. This Apple crap is fantastic because all these devices. This will be in photo albums of all the devices. So here's this one. So now to get the article, what I do is I just touch this and highlight the headline there and see where it says look up. Let's press look up. Full self-driving supervised. This right here, driving chief crashes. There it is. Here's the whole article. You see how you do that? You just highlight the words, and when you Google search it, it comes right up with what was here. There it is, full self-driving. The accident. Talks about the accident. So, they lived through it. It totaled the car, but the full self-driving didn't react properly. Where was he driving? The question goes. Whoops. Excuse me. Just whacked the microphone. Kikorian also raises a troubling point about Tesla's data practices. The car constantly logs the driver's hand position, reaction time, eye tracking. Tesla uses this data after crashes to shift blame to the driver. Hey, I'm just standing there in full self driving. Come on, I'm sitting in the car. Your system is supposed to be taking care of you. Mm-hmm. Florida wrongful death cases resulting in a $243 million verdict. The plaintiffs had to hire a hacker to recover critical evidence from the crash vehicle's computer chip, because Tesla claimed the data couldn't be found. Well, they found it, apparently. The most valuable part of Kerkorian's essay is his analysis of why supervised self-driving is fundamentally broken. You kidding me? The topic we've covered extensively at Electric. That's the magazine that published this article. His core argument, Tesla is asking humans to supervise a system that is specifically designed to make supervision feel pointless. As he puts it, in an unreliable machine, it keeps you alert, but you think the machine is better than you are, and you let it do its thing. Researchers, psychologists call it the vigilance decrement. Monitoring a nearly perfect system is boring. Boredom leads to mind wandering, and the driver needs 5 or 8 seconds to mentally rearrange himself when the car is spinning out of control. Kerkorian cites an Insurance Institute for Highway Safety study showing that after just 1 month of using adaptive cruise control, drivers were more than 6 times as likely to look at their phones than through the windshield. So, this is 2018. This is a long time ago. Okay, we're in, 8 years later. There's a lot of improvements to that software package in 8 years. So, is that when this happened, 2018? Well, I got to a court case and a verdict of $243 million that Tesla had to shell out. This is obviously something they don't like to publish, but this article is written by the accident victim that survived the crash, with a concussion and other injuries, children unharmed. With the NHTSA, the National Highway, TSA, we know what that is. Transportation. Anyway, the National Highway Transportation Agency, is investigating 80 full self-driving accidents covering 2.88 million vehicles and a growing flood of lawsuits following the $243 million Florida verdict. The pressure on Tesla to actually share liability for its system's failures is mounting. Anyway, this is old news. It's just an article that's been published by The Atlantic, regurgitating, now the The verdict was relatively recent, but the accident was in 2018. I mean, you got to be kidding. So, of course, this guy's got heartburn over Tesla, because see, in the 2018 crash in Tempe, Arizona, sensors detected a pedestrian within 5.6 seconds. I don't know what all that means, but anyway, it's 2018. This is a long way. I mean, this software system is, that car, it had LiDAR in it. And the one thing that I remember reading about, they dropped LiDAR because you'd have that system sending information to the computer, and then you had the two visual cameras, a wide angle and a telephoto camera in the front, and two on each side and one in the rear. You got 7 cameras and LiDAR, and the LiDAR was sending conflicting and confusing information to the computer, and it wouldn't know which to follow. Do I do X or Y? So they, because probably of this case and similar failings of the, 8 years ago, gosh, that's like 2 millennia, in the world of digital. It's amazing. This 2018 crash has finally been adjudicated, and an award was $240 million. Yeah, it's a jackpot for you. So, if you look at the system today, it's not that I'm looking at a system of 2018, but it's still a frightening thing to read about. But there's very few of these accidents when you go through the billions of miles. They're literally like 8.4. I think the count so far, in end of February was like 8.4 billion with a B miles of full self-driving videos. It's 7 times better. There's an accident every 5 point something million miles, according to NH, the National Highway Traffic, Association. That's federal agency that tracks all this stuff and decides, provides an opinion to, the transit, I think Secretary Shaw, is that his name? Yeah, I think. So the National Highway Traffic people analyze this accident and a lot, but the software system is totally different today than it was in 2018. And anyway, there's 8.4 billion miles worth of accidents, this being one of them. So if you add the number of accidents of Tesla cars driving, full self-driving, it's an accident that occurs on all the highways all over the country, all over North America. With full self-driving activated in the car, there's an accident every 5.4 million miles. The human driver, there's an accident every 800,000 miles. Okay? So you need compare 800,000 miles, which is a lot more frequent than 5.4 million miles. That's how, Elon says the full self-driving is, 5, 6, 7 times safer than the human driver. Because you humans are getting in an accident every 800,000 miles. My car's ain't getting in an accident but every 5.4 million miles. So do the math. Let's do the math. 5.4 divided by 0.88, I think it is. 6 times. So that's why Elon says, it's about 6 times safer than a human driver. And we're testing that out with 8.4 billion miles worth of driving data. That's how they're coming up. That's how Elon comes up with that. It's 6 times, 7 times safer. Now, granted, that accident, with all the, it was an earlier system. And it's not as good as the current version of the software. That's what 8 years of development does. It fixes stuff. Yeah, that's the bottom line with that. That's why, this kind of a story is not a game killer for Tesla's full self-driving. See? So here's the article. And that's how you look up stuff. I just highlighted the headline of the Adam Lambert. He is a good author. I read his stuff all the time. Every week I'm reading stuff that this guy writes. Yep. Anyhow.
It's 3 o'clock.
Oh my God, it's 3 a.m. I've been talking here for 2 hours and 2 minutes. That's the elapsed time. 2 hours and 3 minutes. And it is 3 a.m. and 20 seconds. Microphone. See, that is the exact time within 50 milliseconds of the atomic clock. I'm told by Apple. It's within 50 milliseconds. They actually rented information. They rented time because they want to know what time it is. Because when they started selling watches, they wanted to make sure this sucker knows what time it is. People that bought, this is a little bit of history, 10, 20, 30 years ago, the joke was about the Rolex is that, oh yeah, it's a great bracelet, but it doesn't keep time. It's a watch, but it doesn't know what time it is. Yeah, it's 4 or 5 minutes off, Well, Apple says, we ain't going to have 4 or 5 minutes off with our watches. We're going to be, we're digital. Yeah, we're going to be, well, the best they could do is within about 50 milliseconds of the actual atomic clock. Because, you got satellite telemetry and uploads and downloads and all that, all this data floating around in hyperspace. That's about as close as they could get everything synced up. So if you're looking at your second hand going around on your Apple Watch, everyone around the planet, that second hand is traveling at the same point around the clock as everyone else around the entire planet Earth. Yes. Now the hours may be different because of which time zone you're in, but that second hand is in exact sync with the atomic clock. of the exact time. Because when you see an Apple Watch, you know what the hell time of day it is. Now, when that thing clicks 29, 30, 31, everybody's watch clicks. Whether it's a watch, an iPad, this phone down here, everything. California, all the states in between. That you can see that time right there. 47, 48. Oh my, yeah, right there. You can see that 54, 55, 56. Everybody's watch syncs the same way. Now, if you're watching this broadcast live, it may be a little variance of 6 seconds, I've been told. Because the internet, I'm not my Apple Watch or my iPad getting the time, because all the watches and devices are in sync within 50 milliseconds of the actual time. That's Apple's responsibility. I have a show here that's being broadcast on Ecamm Live using the internet, and by the time my signal gets out of here, bounces up to a satellite, then comes back down to Ecamm Live, even though it's the speed of light, and into the internet, there is there's a time lapse of 5 or 6 seconds. While the signal is, being broadcast from downtown Boca Raton at 3:04 a.m. pre-dawn, Wednesday pre-dawn. And I'm still yakking away here. I know, Instead of laying in bed with my headphones on, I might as well be sitting here in my quote studio, my 24-inch by 6-foot studio. I have 4 feet behind me with a big printer and files and papers everywhere. Yeah. True as it is, yeah. Yeah, this. I guess I'm gonna have to take some of this. What am I gonna do? Sorry, there. What's this? That's some control. You gotta watch out because I've got a little dog down there. Little dogs, they eat everything, so I'm going to put some of this hydrocortisone cream on this baby, which I'm sure my dermatologist and dog, surgeon, plastic surgeon, Dr. Eugene Strasser, Coral Springs, has his own hospital that he financed. I financed it. I think I had $2.7 million loan on that building. Yeah, put that on there. Hydrocortisone. Yeah, 1%. Hydrocortisone cream, 1%. That's about it. I buy it by the tub. Yep, dog went back to sleep in the box, in the Amazon box. Oh, God, what the world we live in. Anyway, so when you got Apple, you know what time it is. Anyway, so I've been using the full self-driving system in Teslas. I have a Model Y. I have full self-driving. Yep. And Marilyn and I went, just the two of us, no kiddies, went to Disney. A few months ago. And I said, Marilyn, from my driveway here in downtown Boca Raton, at Royal Palm Place, it's right near the intersection of Palmetto Park Road and Federal Highway. That's a main cross section. It goes east all the way to the ocean, goes west all the way to the Everglades. It's one of the few roads that goes all the way east and all the way west. Yamato Road, no soap. It doesn't do it. It stops at Federal Highway. Glades Road, nope, stops at Federal Highway. Dead ends right into Federal Highway. Glades Road, Yamato Road. Now, Hillsborough, I think, does. Now, that's in Broward County, Palm Beach County. You got to go up a piece before you come to another road that goes east to the water and goes west to the Everglades. Anyway, Palmetto Park Road is one of those roads. And Federal Highway goes up and down the whole coast. So we live in the east quadrant of the intersection of Federal Highway and Palmetto Park Road, about 1.5 blocks south and 1.5 blocks east of that cross section, which is Zero Avenue and Zero Street. That'd be right there at the intersection of Palmetto Park Road and Federal Highway. Anyway, so we got out of our structured parking garage, which were about 3 layers up in that winding, trying to get out of parking spot 266, going down to right down to ground level, and we escaped the garage and pull up on a side street before you get on Federal Highway. I said, I'm pulling over here, Marilyn. I said, what is the address? I'm going to show you the features of full self-driving. What is the address of the Hyatt Grand Cypress Hotel in Disney? What's the actual street address? So she told me the street address. Orlando, Florida, 33, I don't know what. So I put in the address in the navigator of the Tesla navigator. It pinpointed it exactly. It immediately mapped the course and gave me a time of arrival and how much energy they'd be in the battery by the time we got there. How much energy there'll be in the fuel tank. I don't like to use the word battery because, I'm trying to use words that are familiar to gasoline vehicles and electric powered vehicles. It's just a form of energy. It's still energy, isooctane is a form of energy that you burn in a ICE engine, internal combustion engine, right? And it gives you energy that propels the wheels and you go forward and all that stuff. Well, I happen to have a fuel tank full of electrons that is metered out to, 2 electric motors, 2 driving the front wheels and one motor driving the front wheel and another motor driving the rear wheels. Press down on the accelerator pedal. Electrons flow to those 2 motors, propels the car forward really quickly if you want to, depending on how hard you push on the pedal. And guess what? It's totally silent. You don't hear a thing. When you're in a car that is propelled by the internal combustion of isooctane, there's a lot of engine noise and a lot of heat that, it comes up through the legs, the footwell of there's heat that comes up. Guess what? In a electric vehicle, there ain't no heat coming up through the floorboards or because there's very little heat. It's a very efficient engine. There's no internal combustion. It's just electrons going from the fuel tank, which runs at about 554 volts and up to 2,000 amps, which is a whole lot of amps, that can flow into those electric motors. And you talk about propelling the car forward, you're like in a, oh gosh. What you do to your passenger, if you're going to test the acceleration, I did this one time. And I'm going up the entry ramp onto I-95 from Palmetto Park Road. There's a ramp that's about a quarter of a mile long, maybe a third of a mile long, before it actually joins into I-95. This is the northbound on-ramp from Palmetto Park Road. Coming from the east, going west, you come up to I-95, and then there's that on-ramp. Because we want to go northbound to Orlando. So I had a couple of friends in the car. I said, gentlemen, would you kindly place your head on the back headrest? Because I'm about to step on the accelerator pedal rather hard to demonstrate to you the G-forces that you will feel on your body. Really, it's G-forces. And I pressed down. I didn't jam on the pedal. I just pushed down all the way fast, but not a jam. Because I was afraid of doing that, actually, because pushing down on it quickly is enough. Jamming the pedal down, no. So I just pushed fast on it, going up the on-ramp, and everybody's going, and everyone took a deep breath. Now, if you didn't ask them to put their head on the headrest, their head would have smashed up against the back end of the headrest, and they'd miss the feeling of the G-forces because they got a concussion. It's not quite that bad. It's a graphical conversation here at 3:15 a.m. I got to be a little exciting and keep you suckers awake. Yeah. Oh boy. What a vehicle. I'm telling you, it is. I've driven just about the entire line of Mercedes-Benz going back 25 years, up to, a few years ago. Going from, $50,000 car up to $130,000 car, which is the four-seat coupe Mercedes 450 SLC. I don't know if they have such a car now. It's a four-seated coupe, two-door, four-seat, hardtop, $136,000 list. I lease cars, so I don't know what. I didn't do car payments, I paid lease payments. Anyway, so whatever. So, my favorite Mercedes car would be the 450 SL, the two-seated coupe, convertible hardtop. That car. Marilyn had one of those. So we had two Mercedes, at the time. She drove the two-seater, I drove the four-seater. Because she was not working, raising Brennan in his early years. She took off about 6 years, having her first kid. marvelous. If the children of the world had a mother like Marilyn, there would be less strife on this planet. I hand wrote on a Mother's Day card to her a decade or so ago. I just sent her that memo again. I sent it out over the internet, today, I think, or yesterday. Maybe could have been this morning. Or yesterday morning. This is this morning. It's just the 18th. I think I did that on the 17th or something. Anyway. Tesla cars. So Mercedes, my favorite. I drove the 450 SEL. It was like the largest four-door sedan car that Mercedes made. About a $95,000 car. Marilyn's car was about the same price for a two-seater car. But it's, the SL, 450 SL. I drove the 450 SEL, I believe, which means a four-door limousine length. Because I had business people, so I wanted to have a very comfortable rear seat. No legs up against the back end of the, you had plenty of leg room. Limousine seating in the back. 2 seats and very comfortable front seating and so forth. Nice big trunk. If you're picking people up in the airport with luggage. Marvelous car to drive. 450 cc's. Cubic centimeters of internal combustion. 8 V8. Yeah. And BMWs. We had the X7 and, which was a SUV kind of a car. Big piece of machinery. Beautifully built. Oh my God. For an SUV, that was magnificent. So, and the Lexus 450 RH. H for hybrid. So it had a 180 horsepower electric motor and a 200 or 300 horsepower and gasoline engine. So it would switch power plants depending on, the first 20 miles would be on the electric motor, and it would really jump off a green light big time because it was using lithium ion electric batteries. And then the gasoline powered motor would then take over on the drive shaft somehow with a change of energy transmission thingy that the Tesla Motor Company came up with in their hybrid electric gasoline. They had 2 different kinds of motors in there, an ICE engine and an electric engine. Now I drive a Tesla, which is all electric. Yeah. Anyway, so those are the 3, of my favorite cars over my life cycle. But I'm telling you, when I drove this Tesla Model Y, with a 330 mile capacity fuel tank, if you will, a 350 volt battery pack. It runs up to 1,000 amps. Plenty of pickup, Yeah, the pickup gets up and goes, man. I rarely use that kind of, I don't drive that way, so. Some people, they're always peeling out every turn they make and every on-ramp. And I've done that as a demonstration to some buddies in the back seat. That's not the way I drive. I drive, comfortable drive, I don't, and, I get 40,000 miles out of 20,000 mile tires because I don't drive like a maniac. I drive pretty, not like an old maid, but I, try to drive reasonable speeds. My kid sent me, he took a picture. You can see his feet, feet crossed on the, yeah. I thought I saw these. Anyway, I just straightened out the picture. There we go. Just square that up. Now it's like we're sitting in his living room. He's watching Gutfeld, and I was watching Gutfeld. What are you doing, Dad? Oh, I'm watching Gutfeld. What are you doing, son? Watching Gutfeld. Of course. There you go. There's Taurus, or whatever the hell his name is. Talking about I don't know what. He makes more sense than most people I talk to about political things. There's our magnificent 5-pound Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. Look at those Cocker Spaniel kind of ears. That face. There's a little almost like a portrait, and then he's looking straight at you, and he's looking that way. Yeah. Marilyn took these 2 shots. I came across this one. Here's Daniel. Date hired 12/4/2008. You stood online with 500 other people because there was an RFP out there for 5. They were hiring 5 people at the Waldorf Astoria Boca Raton Resort and Club. So he's fresh out of high school, He was working in a property management company. He says, Dad, I think I'm going to show up for this interview at the the Boca Raton Resort and Club. It's one of my favorite places on the planet to go. It's right, it's a mile away, a half a mile away from me. I see it's a half mile away. It takes me a while to get there, a mile to get there because I got to go, down this road and go down that road. I can't drive straight across the golf course. So I said, hey, good for you. Go for it. So we stood online for 3 or 4 hours with him and 3 or 4 other buddies. And, they didn't actually know how many jobs they were filling. He told me, a year or so later, he said, hey, Dad, the line I stood on, there were 550 other people standing online for 5 jobs. I got one of those 5 jobs. I said, good for you, kiddo. That's great. But he did. He stood online and he got the job. He got the interview and he got hired. He's a star. I told his mother that. I said, this kid is a star. No question about it. A star is born now and then. He's one of them. Yep. Where'd he go? I came across this employee card. There it is. I took a picture of it in May in 2012. See, this is 2008. And he stayed there for 7 years. So he was there until 2015. And then he took a job up at up in Palm Beach. It's on the beach. It's a more exclusive club than this one is. Having a little senior moment here, trying to think of His names are floating around in my head. The Breakers, yeah. So he worked at the Breakers for 3.5, 4 years. And now he's a Lexus car guy. Would you believe? Started in one department, moved on to another department. So he's 2.5 years in one department, and 2.5 years he's actually selling cars on the floor, making about $150,000 a year. 34-year-old kid, Every time he's taken a job, he's increased his pay like double. I said, kiddo, you keep doing what you're doing. You be in, JM Lexus. It's a big company. They got. You should ask. Well, let's try. How many? Let's see. Do I have a microphone capabilities? How many people are employed at JM Lexus? Now I'm going to hit enter, return on my keyboard here from my. You're seeing it right there live and in color. This is live TV, folks. JM Lexus. Now close. Careers and employment. Let's see. Indeed. JMLexus.com. Who's going to give me the best answer to that question? No, let's just do this one. JM Lexus located in Margate. Yeah. I didn't ask the right question. I needed to ask that question. How many people work in JM Family Enterprises? So let's go back. How do I go back? I don't see a back.
It's 3:30.
3:30. All right. Oh, here it is. JM Family Enterprises. JM Family Enterprises. That's the right question. JM Family Enterprises. Diversified. Wikipedia. Let's go there. I like that. There we go. It's got to be more than 1,000 people. 5,000. Holy shit. Oh, sorry. Excuse me. My God. Revenues of $20 billion. Yeah. Dan Chat. Colin Brown, chairman of the board. Dan Chait. Chat. Look, headquarters in Deerfield Beach, which is close. Founder is Jim Moran. He passed away. I met him. Nice man. I was driving a Jeep. He hit me. He was reading his 3x5 cards with the instructions on how to get to his granddaughter's birthday party. And he was reading the cards and inadvertently crashed into the back end of my Jeep. Maybe we were going like 30 miles an hour, slowing down for a stoplight, but he didn't notice. Banged into the back end of my Jeep. He got out of his car, I got out of my car. We kind of met between the two cars. He said, "Sir, do you know who I am?" I said, "I do. You look like Jim Moran." I said, "Sir, do you know who I am?" The smart ass that I am. I said, "You probably don't know who I am, but I know who you are." "Yes, sir, Bob." He says, "Well, you'll know I'd be able to fix your car because I have a company. I'm in the car business. I said, yes, you are. He said, I'll fix your Jeep and get it back to you in outstanding condition. Give me a couple of days. I'll have somebody come by and get your car and drop off brand new Lexus. And you can drive that around for, the week while we're fixing your Jeep. Would that be okay? No charges of anything of any kind. How is everybody? Everyone okay? I said, yeah. I said, my back hurts a little. No, that was fine. Everybody was fine. Yeah. JM Family Enterprises marked their 50th year in business by announcing a $150 million makeover for their corporate offices down there in Hillsborough Boulevard and I-95 on the northwest intersection of that. Yeah. 15 buildings. Oh my God. Jesus. So, that's where Daniel's headed. They got what? How many employees? Oh, gee whiz. 5,000. That's the 2022. Yeah, a list of transportation, Southeast Toyota distributors, Southeast Toyota parts, Southeast Transportation System, Southeast Toyota Services, financial, insurance, other. Yeah. He's, so then I had a second meeting with him, or the third meeting with him, to see if he wanted to make a small investment in our bank holding company. And we had a meeting and he got called out by Mr. Toyota, which I think was baloney. I think he told his secretary, let me go in and talk to these guys and you call me out of the office. Give me about 10 minutes. So he spoke for 10 minutes and the secretary came and got him out of there. Never heard from him again. Yeah. Really? Yeah, that's okay. He's a big boy and he didn't want to tell me no. So he just got called out of the office and never came back. He had three other. He says, my folks here will take care of you while I take this call. And he did. He had 2 or 3 other people in there. He said, listen to what these guys have to say, take their materials, and let me know what you recommend. So they recommended no, apparently. $5,000 associates. Founded in 1968 by James M. Jim Moran. I drink too much and nuts in the shoe, but I'm okay. It's all in the box right down there still. 355. You tell your friends it was nice to meet them. I might as well just stay up all night. What the hell? I'm talking to you guys for 2 hours and 38 minutes and 42. See, is your lab's time? That's the real time. 3:36 a.m. And I've been talking for 2 hours and 38 minutes, according to this. The lapse timer. There we go. Yeah, that's why I did this way. See the 2 hour part. Oops, there's my puppy dog. Oops, yeah, okay. Oops. We may have to end this broadcast. Anyway, I got to do a print screen of this. How am I going to do that? Let's see. I really want this story. Get right here. One that says 5,000. There we are. Okay. That's a one-handed print screen. Good job, Jimmy. So, Daniel could stay in this company for a good long time and never run out of things to do. Because once you're a good sales, he is an outstanding. He's been selling instead of helping salespeople. He's sat on the floor selling cars to people. Oops. Got my little doggy legs to deal with there. Switch to photos. Information technology. Oh gosh. Overlapping. I'm gonna hit the top button, side button at the same time. There we go. I had a keyboard that used to have a button for print screen. All I had to do is push the button. I don't have one of those buttons on this keyboard. It's a wonderful keyboard. They call it a magic keyboard, and I agree. Southeast Distributed. This article goes on and on. Yeah. So I'm clipping it up into separate picture files. I'll go into my photo album as I scroll down through 38,410,000 square foot warehouse in Jacksonville. Yeah. 8 football fields worth $437 million in Toyota parts and accessories. I mean, he has so many different kinds of jobs that they may pick for him. Because if you're a valuable guy, he's got one of the toughest jobs in the company. You know, when you're actually schlepping cars to people and all the crap you gotta go, all the stuff you have to know about the car, you know, if you're going to be any good as a car salesman. They call him sales manager. He's sales manager. You gotta know what the hell you're talking about. That's what I told him. I said, you gotta know this stuff. Absolutely. Here's all the sources material. I might as well get that. What the heck? Whoops, I just turned it off. You gotta push the buttons at the same time. There we go. The top button and the side button at the same time. It jiggles a little bit, yeah. There we go. Very nice. 5,000 employees. Is that a surprise? I thought maybe 1,200 or something. I mean, what's the head count? Oh, dummy. It's at the top. 5,000 as of 2022. That's 20 billion in revenue. Products, vehicles, parts, automotive, transportation. So the top, you know, I mean, the vehicles, that's the number one thing on products. That's what they do. They sell cars. All right, so if you sell cars, you got to do parts. That's next. Automotive transport, financial services, financial insurance, warranty, software, home products, services. You know. Anyway, the first thing on the list of products is vehicles. So Daniel is sales manager extraordinaire selling cars. That's what these guys do. They sell cars. Without people like Daniel, these guys have nothing to do. They close up shop if they can't sell cars. But they've been selling cars for 57 years because JM Family Enterprises is one impressive. This is very impressive. You know, I met Jim Moran, so, you know, he was hot stuff, you know, when I met him 12 years ago, whatever it was. When I was a young lad. When I was 68 years old. He bumped into me. He said, son, something like that, you know. He said, sir, do you know who I am? I said, Mr. Moran, yes, I recognize you. Do you know who I am? I said, you probably don't. I'll answer you. I'll answer my own question. My name is Jim Olson. I'm delighted to meet you. I'm sorry we met by accident. I'd rather have met on purpose. I'm the CEO of a small bank holding company in South Florida. We have a branch bank, and we do commercial banking for small customers in the 3 or 4 county area. Started as a teller and came all the way up through the line. Worked for big banks, mid-sized banks, small banks, Southeast Bank, Boca Bank. And now my partner hired me on and said, let's form a bank holding company and let's be in the banking business.
And I'm hearing what you say, but I just can't make sense.
I said, Phil, tell you what I'm going to do. You know, the money was coming in slower than what he told me when he hired me in. He said, oh yeah, in 90 days I'll have $6 million. Well, 90 days we had 100,000. That's a little short of 6 million. I said, Phil, money's not coming in as fast as we thought, is it? He says, no, this. I said, I'll tell you why. I said, because you're selling vapors. You want to bring people in to a bank holding company. What is it that we don't have? A bank. Phil, you go raise money, talk to people. I'm going to go buy a bank. He says, how are you going to buy a bank without any money? I said, isn't America great? Who says we need money to buy a bank? I'm going to get a bank under contract, and we're going to agree to buy this bank for X number of dollars a share. And it takes months of regulatory approval. So in the meantime, I'm going to take a picture of this bank and make a copy of this very nice bank contract, which I know how to do because I worked in the bank acquisition department of a bank. So there's a thing called a definitive agreement. A definitive agreement, which is a contract, essentially, that outlines all the terms and conditions of buying a bank. It could be a definitive agreement for buying a jet airplane, but in the banking business, when somebody, some entity, or a bank wants to buy another bank, they do it with a definitive agreement. So I have a few models of those, so I've gone through, put on my legal hat, which I'm not, and I'm going to edit this document and go, and I'm going to sign it, and I'm going to get the chairman of a bank to sign it. Now he said, well, what bank are you going to buy? I said, I don't know yet. I'll let you know. I said, but I'll be on it because I'm going to get a hold of, Jerry Raines Dolan at Deloitte & Touche, which you know well, and I'm going to ask her to ask the state of Florida, do they have any weak banks that needs a financial partner because they've wiped out their capital in bad loans or whatever. And Jerry Raines Dolan came up with a bank in Hollywood called Florida First International Bank of Hollywood. Can you believe it? Florida First International. They didn't do international jack anything. Ugh, it's a shame. They raised $7 million in capital and burned it down to less than $1 million. And it was failing fast. We came along, got it on a definitive agreement, went to Tallahassee. They approved us as a buyer. And we were raising money because I had a definitive agreement and a nice big 8.5 by 11 picture on the front page of the brochure that Phil Motter used to meet with his financial targets, people that would buy stock in the company. And he got $1 million out of this person. He got 500,000 out of that person. And the money was flowing in. And by the time we closed the bank, I met with Larry Marchbanks, and we had $986,000. We agreed with all this stuff to put $1 million in the bank, and I was short by 14,000. I said, Phil, he said he called everyone. I can't get this last 14,000. I said, Phil, you got all these $1 million checks. Come on, or whatever size checks you got. $500,000 checks here and there. So then he finally, I met with Larry Marchbanks, a lawyer friend of mine that closed loans for me with Boca Bank. Became a close friend. We had lots of lunches and dinners and golf outings. We played golf for 2 weeks and traveled all over, North Carolina, playing in golf courses, the beautiful mountain ranges. In Florida, you play golf, everything's flat. Go to North Carolina, it's really up and down. It's really exciting. Anyway, so, you get to know somebody when you travel with them, with 12 other guys, 11 other guys. I think we had 12, 3 foursomes. So we, you get to know each other when you're bunking together and playing golf every day and having lunch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner with the same 8 people. I think it was 8. And so we traveled all in one van. We switched off who drove. Anyway, so Larry and I got to know each other real well, and as we all did with each other. But Larry and I became very good friends after that, for sure. We were friends enough to get invited on that trip. And after that trip, we were even, we were clams in the sand. Yeah. As they say. So I went to Larry Marchbanks. We had 984,000. I needed 16,000 more. I said, Larry, you got to invest 16,000 more, because then I'll have $1 million to execute this definitive agreement. I can't buy the bank. I need 16,000. That's how much more we need. I said, you got to. He said, I said, get it somewhere. I need a check now. Literally, I need it tonight because I need the $1 million tomorrow. I said, oh, crap. He said, all right, I'll write you a check out of this. He said, I'll have the money in the bank by tomorrow morning when you need it. It's actually not in there tonight. It'll be there tomorrow morning. I'll write you the check now. I don't like doing that, but I'll do it. I said, well, just, move the money over because I need this check to clear. He said, well, put it in after 10 a.m. Sure as shit, I deposited that check, and we got our $1 million at First Union Bank. I made it a cashier's check payable to Florida First International Bank of Miami, or Florida First International Bank of Hollywood, yeah, on Sheridan Street. And that was the bank. I pinned it. I literally had a clothespin, I pinned it to my shirt pocket, my white shirt pocket. I didn't even put it in my back pocket. I didn't want to put it in a briefcase. Someone would steal the fucking, excuse me, pardon me. Someone would steal my briefcase and there's a $1 million check in there. I pinned it to my shirt pocket. Someone's going to have to rip this shirt off me to get this check. So on Wednesday, so Bill Model looks at me and says, well, when are we going to close on the bank? I said, we'll close on Thursday. The deadline is Friday. Let's close on Thursday So if anything pops up, we got one more day to make it happen. So let's just close on Thursday and have a comfortable closing, and you guys celebrate. And I'll be down here working with the FDIC. So they all went up in the conference room and, popped champagne bottles with the board of directors, which I'm one of them, but I was downstairs working on regulatory affairs matters, as I say. And yeah, the FDIC was downstairs measuring desks. They were going to take the bank Friday. They were putting that Dayglow sticker on the front door of this bank on Friday. So the lady that was running the FDIC unit that was measuring the desks for their brochure on selling the stuff, the lobby was beautiful. I would have to say this is the most attractive lobby I've hardly ever seen. And I don't spend a lot of time in bank lobbies because I'm usually on some the second, third, fourth floor or something, doing shopping center loans and that kind of thing. So yeah, you don't spend a lot of time in the lobby. You just walk in the main door and go in the elevator and go straight up to where you are. Anyway, but you look around every once in a while in the lobby and cash a check or something. Meet someone in the lobby and take them up in the elevator. So I knew what our lobbies looked like in the banks I used to work for. But this lobby was magnificent. It had this nice deep, marble desktops and marble flooring, and it had a big vault door, and you could see the big wheel, which is exactly what you want. I mean, it was just great. If I were to design a bank lobby, this would be it. I could hold, like 16 people. I think that's what we employed, 16 people, including Phil and I, and we shared an office. Anyway, Larry gave me the $16,000 check. Got our $1 million check, and at 3 p.m. on Thursday we closed, and the cashier of the bank deposited the $1 million check, which went into capital of the bank, pursuant to our definitive agreement that Jimmy wrote. Well, actually, a whole bunch of lawyers wrote, and Jimmy made copies of all that stuff. I was on the bank acquisition team, and I had about 5 or I used to read all these definitive agreements. We used to write all these definitive agreements with the best lawyers in the state of Florida, and some in Buffalo, New York, actually. And yeah, that's my story on closing that bank. Phil, I'm going to take a picture of this big bank building with the name on the front. This is going to be Southern Security Bank. Yeah. And they can walk in the bank in which we'll have a definitive agreement, and it is gorgeous. And we know the CEO of the bank, we know the president of the bank, and because that's who I negotiated these deals with. And if we need an investor that needs to walk into this lobby, I can arrange it. I'll be there with you and, show where you got. And we showed around a couple of people that wrote checks. We raised about $6 or $7 million over a couple year period of time. Yeah. And we own 35% of, after, because you sell stock in your holding company, Phil and I owned 100% of the stock on day 2. He owned 100% of the stock on day 1. He gave me some stock on day 2 or day 10 or whatever that was. And then we started selling stock to other people, and then, you get diluted. Well, we got diluted to about 34%. And then Phil said, Jimmy, you're one of the best partners a man can have. I want you to have the exact number of shares of stock that I have to the share. And we had 17% of the stock each when it was all said and done. Which for two bankers, that is a huge percentage of a bank and a bank holding company. For the two operators of the company to have that much, it's usually 3 or 4%, 17% each, a total of 35%, 34% of the bank was owned by Jimmy and Phil Motter. Yeah, good man. He is in heaven looking down on me. He was really great. He got really angry with me one time because he thought I was siding with an opposition party that was trying to buy us. And he thought I sided with them. I said, no, I didn't, I swear. He said, well, look at the stuff. He gave us like 35 brochures to hand out to our board members and big shareholders. And it was, I said, have you looked through this? And I said, no, I'm looking through it now. He said, no, this is terrible. He said, did you design? I said, no. This is what I gave him, and this is what he came up with. So apparently you and he don't like each other. What's going on there? Because he didn't give you the position that you deserve, and he's trying to get you out, apparently. And that buyer didn't like him. I don't know why. Phil's the best partner I ever had, which I told him. One of the nicest men I ever met, actually, alongside of Marilyn's father, who is the nicest man I ever met. And the second nicest man I ever met is my first wife's father. Yeah, Steele's father. William R. Hill. Dr. Hill. Yeah. And my present wife's father, which Marilyn and I have been together 45 years. Would you believe it? February 22nd of 1980. We've been in the same place from that evening forward. Now, I've seen her floating around in the bank for a couple of years. Never said hello to her and never knew who she was. Probably 3 or 4 years, probably in the fourth year, I've learned what her name was. Just because she was talking to one of my coworkers and our boss, Bob Curtis. So at lunch, I said, "Who the hell's that girl? Who the hell's that girl that you guys are talking to all the time that comes over from International?" "Oh, that's Marilyn Reed." So, I'm married 10 years to Steele Hill, so, But she started fooling around with the history teacher. I thought she was taking classes at FAU. She was apparently taking classes with whatever his name was. Can you believe it? The biggest surprise in my life. That's another story for another evening. I'd go on another 3 hours on that story. Anyway, so 1980, I actually met Marilyn because she was in a training class that I was part of, and she was one of the participants. And I was one of the facilitators. They use all these different vocabulary words, They don't call you a teacher, they call you a facilitator. And they don't call them students, they call them participants. Because they want everyone to feel like we're equals. Which is fine, I don't care. Call me whatever you want. So I was a facilitator. We had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and a half of Friday. So we had 4.5 days, and I had a half-day session, I think, on Thursday morning on a topic I don't remember the name of. So I had 4 hours in the morning, and
it
it was probably something financial,
memories bring back you.
if I had to guess. So Marilyn was one of the participants sitting in the back row, probably. She said she was. I said, I didn't even, I'm sorry to say, I didn't really notice, the people in the class because there's like 40 of you. And, maybe you see a couple of people in the front row. But your eyes are just gazing around, in the classroom setting. And I had a half a day, and I did my half day. And, what was that? I said, was I interesting? She says, I don't remember. I said, oh, that's the worst thing you could have said. You don't remember? You don't remember. I had the most exciting segment in that whole thing. I was so distracted with, a bad marriage and this and that. And I said, yeah, I know what that's like. So that's how we met. Because on the 5th day, on Friday afternoon, starting at 4:30, the classes were over, and everyone had their bags packed because they flew in from all over the state of Florida to do this thing. We stayed in the Daphne Hotel in the Miami Airport, the Sheraton Rivergate Plaza, I think is what it's called. Sheraton Rivergate Plaza, the Daphne Lounge. That's where I met her. So we took over the Daphne Lounge. Now we had people. When you work in a bank, you always have people. So we had people. Yeah, it's a big bank. Well, Trustco is a $35 billion bank 45 years ago. So you multiply that by 5. And so it's like it's like a $200 billion bank in today's dollars. It's at least 5 factor, 45 years. Maybe 6. Let's just say 6. Yeah. So $200 billion bank holding company in today's dollars. $200 billion is good size. There are bigger, but you're in the top 20 banks in the country, in North America. Anyway, so we had people that arranged that we would have total charge of the Daphne Lounge right up to about 9 o'clock, I think it was. And then they open the lounge to whomever until it closed, but we had the lounge till 9. And we had like 65 people from Canada and all over the place, and Jacksonville. But our people from Montreal came down to hand out the diplomas to all 40 of these participants. And it's because we were locked up in the hotel for 5 days. Everyone stayed in the hotel. Obviously they were flew from out of town. So that's a lot of hotel rooms. That's a lot of breakfast, lunches, and dinners, plus all their payroll time. Plus there are 8 of us, plus 2. There were 10 of us. So we had 2, 4, 6, 8. We had 8 instructors, maybe 9. 9, facilitators. Excuse me. And a couple of, so 9 facilitators and let's say 3 staff, so 9. So we had 12. We had a team of 12 that put the program together. I mean, literally. Word, sentence, and volume. We started from just an outline. The name of the thing and the name of the subsections, and we had to author everything else, which we did. Took us about 2 weeks to put it together, and then, then the week of everyone flying in. It's a major financial commitment for, Montreal to say, okay, here's $2.5 million. Go teach these 40 people that are going to run this company 10 years from now. That's how the Canadians thought. That's, medium term goal setting is like 10 years. Short term is 1 year. In the United States, short term is 45 days. Yeah. In Canada, it's a year or 5 years or something. I mean, it's unbelievable. When you do a budget, it's a 25-year budget. And then you break it down into, 5-year periods. Seriously. In the United States, you do a 5-year budget and you do it in quarterlies. Montreal is 25 years. Generation. Yeah, we budget for a generation, 25 years. Unbelievable. Worked for the Canadian Bank, it's unbelievable. I'm telling you. You did 25-year budgets and broke it down in 5-year segments. And in the first 5-year segment, you break down to 1-year subsections. That's how you develop your 25-year budget. That was a learning experience, learning how to do a 25-year budget. Anyway, that's how I met Marilyn. Because, we were in a cocktail party, basically. Shrimps and lobster tails and tenderloin tips and, all the goodies that a $35 billion bank holding company would present. These 40 people, I mean, these head guys from Montreal that are running a $35 billion bank holding company, they come down and said, you 40 people are going to be running this company 10 years from now. You will hold all the highest positions in this company 10 years from now. This is how important you are to us. And this is your first training session for 1 week to introduce you to, Royal Trust Bank Corp. So we pulled you out of your jobs so you could begin to understand, because your managers and your managers' managers have decided that you look around the room, you all are going to be running this company 5 or 10 years from now. Some of you, a couple of you, are running it now. So look around. You're going to see each other from time to time as you accept higher and higher level assignments. I mean, that's how, when you got out of that session, and the CEO of the bank holding company, who is an old gray guy from Montreal that has a French accent to his English, and he's telling you how you're going to run Royal Trustco. There are people up in Canada that still know my name. I haven't been in there for 25 years. Or 20 years. I mean, can you believe it? It's unbelievable. We made an impression on the people at the highest levels in that company. Yes, sir. Proud to say. Yeah, because I had a friend of mine that worked up in Montreal, and he said, oh yeah, they know who you are. These guys up here remember who Jim Wilson was. Yeah, from Miami. Jim Wilson from Miami. Oh my God, everyone's ear goes up, wondering where he is. Yeah. I was destined to be vice chairman and director of a small bank holding company in Central Broward County, just off I-95 and Sheridan Street. Yeah, about 8 blocks west of I-95. Yeah. The north side of Sheridan Street. 5-story office building with Southern Security right on the front. You betcha. Phil was great. I really enjoyed that period of time, 12 years. Yeah, that's quite a chunk of your life. You know, my pet, you see my little doggy here is sleeping in my arms because it's 4:12 a.m. All right, we're doing good. We've been on the air 3 hours and 15 minutes, putting everyone to sleep. We just learned that Jim Moran employs 5,000 people. Can't wait to send this over to Daniel. I'll do it later. I don't want his phone to ring with this stuff at 4 a.m. He won't notice. I'll send this to him at 9:30 in the morning. He said, look at what I learned from Wikipedia about your good company. $20 billion in revenues and over 5,000 employees. That's as of 4 years ago. Yeah, you ought to get yourself an annual report of J.M. Family Enterprises. It's probably a public document. It may not be. Maybe private. Yeah, who knows? This little puppy doesn't even smell like a dog yet. I'm afraid to give her a bath and she'd get all shivery and shaking cold in the air conditioning. Yeah. All right, I'm done. Okay, wait. Girl dog, be patient for a minute.
There's a dream that I've been chasing one so badly for it to
I love this music. It goes, after 3 hours, it goes to a different soundtrack.
and when you hold my hand and I
Let's see, it's the 18th today, yeah. We put up this moniker right here.
baby, when
I
you're
go full screen on that.
it's like an
Touch
angel
that.
came by
There we go.
and took me
Now I have to make this the entire screen. We always end with this logo, which shows Wednesday, March 18th. In 2 days is Jimmy's birthday. And I'll just tell you, I'm over 80. I ain't saying another word over, less than over 80. My daughter buys me this dog to keep me busy. Like my life isn't complicated enough. I gotta care for this little 10-week-old little bundle of joy, which it is, quite frankly. It's amazing how people like pets. I recommend everyone have a dog. I got 2 cats, and they're 15 years old, and they're probably gonna go into cat heaven. And my daughter said, "We can't have that. We need something new for you to watch over." So she's on the phone. She said, "You know what?" She said, I had a friend of mine. I had a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. Look up that. So I Googled it. And I said, "Yeah, I got a breeder in Kansas City." "Yeah, look at these right here." I said, "How about this one?" She said, "Yeah, let's buy it. How much is it?" I said, "It's like $3,000. She said, "All right, I'll pay $3,000. She whipped out her credit card and put it on her debit card. Wham! I mean, that's how she said, "I've been meaning to buy you one of these dogs. You're going to love it. It's a lap dog. It's like a miniature Cocker Spaniel." I said, "When I was a little kid, I grew up with a Cocker Spaniel. Name of the dog was Topsy." And she went into, Cocker Spaniel heaven when I was like 9 years old. And then my mother got a toy French poodle. Yeah. Suzette was her name. My mother spoke French, English, German, Latin. My mother was a linguist, spoke 5 languages. Yeah. Who speaks Latin, for God's sakes? Except for the Catholic Church and my mother. Yes. The poor cat is shaking her ears, saying, I don't want any more sound waves going in my ears. You've been talking for 24 hours. 3 hours, 20 minutes, and 35 seconds. Say goodnight, everybody. We love you. Tell all your friends to go to FAU4U on YouTube.com. Be there or be square. Bye-bye.
That I be at one. Oh, I know that dress is karma, perfume regret. You got me thinking about when you were mine. Ooh, and now I'm